Well, thank you again for attending our webinar today. My name is Marcia Stinson. I'll be giving the Raven Office demo to you. We're very excited to show you what Raven can do for you. I just wanted to mention that Raven Office is specifically designed to help you write clear and concise process narratives. It ensures your flows are complete and understandable, and it's primarily used during the definition and elicitation process, and it will greatly improve the communication between your business analysts and your users and stakeholders. So today we're going to look at three primary functions of a Raven Office. The first is the glossary function, where you define actors, objects, and terms to be used across your projects and users. And then we're going to look at the Raven Language Engine, which is going to parse the text and create activity diagrams for us. And lastly, we're going to show how this integrates with Raven Cloud, which is our web-based product. So as I mentioned, we're going to start with the Glossary Manager. First of all, I have opened up just a standard Word document. You can create your requirements document template in Word just as you do today. You can see I have a table of contents. I have some other information inside of here. And typically when you open a Word document, you see all of these options across here except for the Raven option. And since I have Raven installed as a plugin, I can simply select Raven, and here's the Raven ribbon across here and all the options I have available to me. We're going to discuss each of these, but I wanted to start by showing you the Glossary Manager. So we're going to select Glossary Manage right here, and this is going to bring up a window where I can manage all my glossaries. Here I can select a glossary, create a new one, rename one, copy, delete. I can import my glossary terms from Excel, or I can export my terms to Excel. And here's some other views of the information in the glossary. So for this, I'm actually going to use one that's already here. So we're going to select the airline check-in glossary that I've created. And you might notice I have four types of information inside of here. I have a traveler who is an actor. You can see the yes here in the actor column, and it's a person. I have the select seat page, which is not an actor. I have the airline website, which is a system and is an actor, and then check-in option, which is some information, and again, not an actor. So I can define all of the terms and actors and object terms that I think I'm going to use, and of course I may add others at a later time. To add a new term, I simply click this option, enter my term name, select a type and subtype, a description, acronyms, synonyms. If it's an actor, I would check here, and I can have a status of draft or approved. Once I've filled in as much information as I think I need, I hit save, and it shows up in my glossary at that point. I can also add existing terms, which actually brings up all of the terms in all of the glossaries and lets me pick from those. If there's something in here I want to add to my glossary, I can simply select it and then hit OK, and it will be added to my glossary. I can edit terms and delete terms as well in here. So here's how I manage glossaries and manage the information that's inside of the glossary. So for now, I'm just going to minimize this piece. And then what I want to do once I've finished with my glossaries is pick the glossary I want to use for this particular Word document. And this, as I mentioned, we're using airline check-in, so I'm going to select that glossary. And now that glossary is attached to this document, and it's going to reference that glossary when it does its analysis, when Raven does its analysis. I also wanted to mention that the Glossary Manager runs in the cloud. So these glossaries can be shared across multiple users. It's not just me that has access to them. Anyone within my team can also have access to these glossaries. So now I've created my glossary. I've selected my glossary. The next thing that I want to do is actually add some information in here for a process that I'm going to put into my document. So as I scroll down through here, you'll see I have some scenarios, a scenario section, a pre and post condition. Here's my narrative, diagram, and test scenarios. So I'm going to show you how to fill in this information using Raven and show you how quickly you can do that. So one of the things I like to do is bring down the process pane. This brings up another pane to the left of the Word document where I can actually enter my narrative type in my use case or my process flow and have Raven analyze it. So I cheated a little bit. I already had a narrative, and I'm just going to paste it in here so you don't have to sit and watch me type this whole long narrative. And here's just a couple things I want to mention as we're looking at this. Raven looks for simple sentences with an actor, traveler, a function, selects, and an object, online check-in option. Period at the end. That's the minimum amount of information Raven requires to be able to understand what that sentence means. You notice here we have in the airline website, we call that a target actor. And that's when I transfer control between actors. I need to make sure I have a target actor here, because then the next sentence, it is this actor who's performing the function. And I just want to point out this sentence here, the itinerary is retrieved. You can probably look at that and quickly realize it's not in active voice. It's in passive voice. And I want to show you how Raven handles this and treats it to give you an idea of how you can find errors in your logic within your process flows or narratives. So we've got our use case in here. This would be a basic path. There are no alternates in here yet. And we're going to analyze this narrative. So I'm going to go right up here, select Analyze Narrative. And this is telling Raven, parse this text and find any errors that you can in this text and let me see those errors. So just a couple things I want to point out here for those of you that are previous Raven professional users. Now that my analysis has completed, I can go up here and colorize this text, and this will add the highlighting that you're used to seeing. Actors are blue, functions are green, objects are red. This helps me see how Raven is parsing and interpreting this information. You'll notice itinerary is blue because Raven thinks that's an actor. Is the function. Retrieved, we're not sure what that is. It's not colorized at all. So this helps us see how Raven is interpreting that information. Now that I've looked at that, let's look at the errors and warnings associated with this particular narrative. And it comes up down here at the bottom. I have a flow break and a non-glossary actor. So if I click on this error, the flow break error, it highlights the sentences where the break occurs. And of course, it's associated with this passive voice sentence that I have here. And I have a non-glossary actor, and guess what? Well, that's associated with the itinerary as well. So all of my actors have to be defined in the glossary to get rid of these errors. So now that you can kind of see how Raven interpreted that, let's just look at the diagram so you can see what that looks like as well. So let's do preview diagram. This tells Raven to now just go build the activity diagram associated with this text that's in here. And I wanted to do this so you could see what the diagram looks like when it's got that kind of a problem of flow break. You see I have 3 swim lanes, traveler, airline website, and whoa, guess what? Itinerary, because Raven thought it was an actor. And then I have is retrieved kind of sitting out here all by itself in its own swim lane. And of course we know that's not correct. So we want to fix that so our diagram has a nice clean flow to it with no breaks. So we'll close the diagram. And let's just go up, and we know this sentence is the problem, so let's go up and fix this and say the airline. Now you notice because I have attached the glossary here, it gives me a list of actors and objects to pick from. So I'm going to select the airline website, and we're going to say retrieve, so it's in active voice, retrieves the itinerary. Okay, you might also notice things with a dashed line underneath them. Those are items that are already in the glossary. So remember when we created the glossary with those 4 items, those are the 4 that you see underlined with a dashed line inside the text itself. So let's now preview that diagram again so you can see what it looks like. And you will see that I have 2 swim lanes and no breaks in the flow. So that corrected that problem that Raven found by writing it in active voice. And indeed, if I analyze this narrative again, I'm going to find that my errors will go away as well. So this is how we can look at our narrative, look for gaps in the flow, places where it doesn't make sense, correct those quickly, make sure our actor and object names are consistent, and all that is done with the help of Raven. So I want to turn off this, and now we're going to add an alternate path inside of here using a conditional set statement. So we're going to add a conditional statement right here that says if the airline website validates the check-in, then we're going to say then the airline website retrieves the itinerary, and down here we're going to add an otherwise the airline website displays the check-in unavailable message to the traveler. So in this case, I've defined my true path and my false path. So let's analyze this just to make sure we wrote our conditional correctly. And here we go. Looks like we did it correct. So now let's look at that diagram associated with this text so we can see what that looks like. And you notice now we have a check here. If it's valid check-in, then we retrieve the itinerary. Otherwise, we say check-in not available. And we might want to put a note inside of here that maybe says validate means that it's less than 24 hours before flight time, something like that. And we could add comments inside of here that show that. So now that we've got a clean, nice narrative, let's add that information into my Word document. So what I do is simply go to the place where I want to add it, and we're going to add the narrative inside of here. I go to Insert, Process Narrative, and it's going to actually just take this text and insert it into the document at that point. So now my text is in here. And now let's put the process diagram in here. I could simply insert the process diagram right here, but I want to do one more thing before I insert that diagram. And that is, once it comes up, instead of bringing it in horizontally, I'm going to bring it in vertically. So I want to rotate the diagram. And now you see I have a vertical diagram. And there are things I can do inside of here to resize boxes and move lines and some of those kinds of things. I can't do a lot because I don't want to change the flow in any way, but it gives me the ability to at least do some resizing and a little bit of moving. So now we're going to select Insert Diagram from here. And it's going to put that diagram into my Word document for me. So very quickly, I can build my use cases, I can build my diagrams, and here is that diagram added in. So I've included that. So let's go back up now to glossary, and let's say I would like to put my glossary inside of here as well. Again, I go to Insert Table, and here I want to insert terms. And so I simply select my terms, and that information is going to be added into my document in a nice table format, and there they all are. And if I've referenced a term from a glossary, it tells me what glossary that term is in. So now the last thing I want to add in are test scenarios. So as you can probably imagine, I have two paths through this particular narrative. So let's go back to Insert Table, and we're going to insert scenarios. And I'm going to have a table added. I'm actually going to have two tables added that's going to show the flow through those different test paths. So just once I have that narrative complete and analyzed by Raven, there's all this other information I can get out of it, which is so valuable. So other things I can insert Functions is a list of all the functions inside the use case and what actor performs them. If I want the steps just listed in a table, I can list those. Scenarios, and if I want to see the complete sentences in a table, I can do that. All of this information just basically inserted into my document very quickly and very easily. So I'm going to build my document in this manner and continue to build it until it's finished. So that's the basics of what Raven Office can do for you. I wanted to mention here there are some exports as well of these particular diagrams to an image, Visio, or XPDL, or XMI as well. Under Options now, we're going to just show you how this integrates with Raven Cloud. And under Options, I actually set up some features as far as whether my orientation is horizontal or vertical of my diagrams. If I want my text always highlighted, I can select it here. A default glossary for this particular document, I can change that here if I like. And these are my user preferences. Notice here are my Raven Cloud options. And this is where I would actually set up my Raven Cloud account. So I'm going to enter my login information here. And once it's entered, I can test that account. Yes, it's good. Now I am now connected to Raven Cloud, and I'll show you what that can do for you as well. All right, so we're all set up to share our processes. So one of the things I might choose to do is put this process, it's such a beautiful process and it looks so great, I might choose to put it out into Raven Cloud where other people could access it without having to get an email from me or come copy it or those kinds of things. So now we're going to save this process into Raven Cloud so other people can access it. So we want to select Save Process. And these are the categories that I have in Raven Cloud. So if I bring up my Raven Cloud account, you'll see I have Sales and My Processes. And that's exactly what you see here, Sales and My Processes. So let's say we're going to add this to My Processes. We're going to call it Airline Check-In. This is a to-be process, and we will save it. And if I go back now to Raven Cloud, and let's do a refresh. Here's the airline check-in, and we'll just pull it over so you can see what it looks like. There it is, and it's going to model for it as well. So now I have saved my process out into Raven Cloud, and the other users can now access that and pull it in. And I'll show you how they would do that. So let's do that. Let's go down here. Let's say we're going to create another narrative here. And we're going to open a process. And here are the Raven Cloud processes. Here's Sales, and here are My Processes. So I don't want the check-in one. Let's pick the loan application process and say Open. And here it is. Now the text has been added right over here. So let's, we can look at that. We can analyze it. So let's actually just analyze that narrative real quick. And then let's preview the diagram. So I can quickly pull these shared processes down from Raven Cloud, insert them into my document. Here's the diagram associated with that, and create some more narratives very quickly based on what others have done. So it's a nice way to share this information. You might have noticed this Previous and Next down here. This allows me to navigate through my scenarios or my narratives. If I go to Previous, it's going to take me back to my airline website. If I hit Next, it goes to the next narrative that's in this document, and that is the loan application. So this can also help me very quickly navigate through my scenarios that are part of my document. So now that we've gone through that option, let's actually go ahead and insert this narrative into the document as we did before. So we'll go to insert process narrative, and then in this case we're inserting the loan application process in here. And then we'll go down, and once again we will insert our diagram, and we'll insert that right here. Well, let's preview it first just to make sure. And then we can also at the same time look and see how we want to orient that particular diagram. And I'm actually going to rotate it again. And then I'm going to insert that diagram. So I'm continuing to build on my document. The other thing I wanted to mention over here on the left, you might have noticed some ability to change the font size, to add some numbering over here. I can actually number the steps in my use case if I would like to do that. There's also a pane here where I can add information about this particular process, a name, a description, whether it's as is or to be, where it came from. In this case, this was brought down from the sales portion, so it's going to come down as sales in my process category. And I am the author, of course, and this allows me just to add some additional information on that particular process. Now we might be done, or we might want to go ahead and add yet another narrative to our document, and we can do that by simply going in here and saying add new process, and now we can begin to write a whole new process right here. We can then insert that into the document and continue to build and continue to look at all of these scenarios with the previous and next button that we mentioned before. The one other option that I wanted to show you is share process, and I can actually open up a process, select share process, and that will create an email that's going to be sent to whoever I want it to go to, and they can now take this process, save it locally, and just include it in their Word document. So just another way to share this information. And that's the last option I believe that I wanted to show you. I think that covers all of the functionality within Raven that we wanted to talk about today. I hope this has been helpful to you and that you see how Raven can help benefit your organization when you're gathering and documenting your high-level business requirements and communicating with the users. We believe Raven provides a great visualization of those processes that can help users be more accurate in what they're describing to you and help you make sure that you document things correctly. We know that's one of the keys to project success. And that concludes the Raven Office demonstration at this point. Thank you very much, and I'll turn this back over to Davin.